The FBI can identify certain mental disorders just by watching someone for 60 seconds. No medical degree needed, no fancy equipment, just their eyes and decades of behavioral research. Right now, someone around you might be displaying signs that would make an FBI agent take a second look. These aren't the obvious signs you'd expect, they're hidden in plain sight. And in the next 10 minutes, you'll learn to recognize 10 mental disorders the way they do. When FBI agents walk into a room, they're not just looking at people, they're reading them. Every gesture, every glance, every small movement tells a story. This skill comes from something called behavioral analysis, and it's based on real science. The FBI's Behavioral Analysis Unit has studied thousands of cases over decades. They've learned that mental health conditions leave specific traces in how people act. Not the dramatic signs you see in movies, but subtle patterns that most of us miss completely. Think about the last time you were in a crowded place, maybe a mall, a restaurant, or waiting for a bus. While you saw faces in a crowd, an FBI profiler would have spotted at least 5 different behavioral markers that reveal someone's mental state. The key is knowing what to look for, and it starts with understanding that our minds control our bodies in ways we can't hide. When someone has depression, their brain chemistry changes how they move. When someone struggles with anxiety, it shows up in their breathing patterns. When someone has ADHD, it's written in how their eyes scan a room. But here's what makes this really interesting. These signs show up even when people are trying their best to appear normal. Let's start with the most common ones that FBI agents spot first. Depression appears in what agents call gravity behavior. Depressed people literally move like they're fighting against extra weight. Their shoulders curve forward slightly. They take smaller steps. When they sit, they tend to lean into furniture for support. But here's the detail most people miss: their eye contact pattern. They'll look at you when you start talking, but their gaze drops to your chest or hands within seconds. It's not shyness. Their brain is conserving energy. Anxiety shows up in what looks like normal fidgeting, but it follows a pattern. Anxious people touch their face, neck, or hair in clusters, 3 or 4 touches, then a pause, then 3 or 4 more. They also do something called exit scanning. Every few minutes, their eyes dart to doorways and windows. They're not planning to leave, their brain is just checking escape routes automatically. ADHD in adults creates what agents call attention leakage. These people appear to be listening to you, but every 20 to 30 seconds, something else captures their focus for just a moment. A sound, a movement, even their own thoughts. Their head might not move, but their eyes shift slightly. They also tend to respond to questions half a second faster than most people because their brain is already jumping ahead. Moving deeper into FBI behavioral analysis, here are 4 more conditions that trained agents can spot through careful observation. Bipolar disorder during manic phases creates what agents call accelerated living. These people talk faster, but more importantly, they interrupt themselves. Mid-sentence, they'll jump to a completely different topic because their brain is moving too quickly for their words to keep up. Their hand movements become bigger and more dramatic. They also invade personal space without realizing it, standing too close, touching people's arms while talking, or leaning over tables. But obsessive-compulsive disorder appears in repetition patterns that most people mistake for habits. But OCD repetitions serve a purpose. They reduce internal tension. Watch for people who tap, count, or arrange things in specific sequences. They might straighten papers on a desk exactly 3 times, or check their phone in a particular rhythm. The key difference from normal habits is the relief expression that crosses their face when they complete the sequence. Post-traumatic stress disorder shows up in hypervigilance behaviors. These individuals sit with their backs to walls when possible. They react to sudden sounds, not jumping, but their entire body tenses for a split second. Their eyes do constant microscans of their environment, checking faces and movements. Most revealing is their startle recovery time. When surprised, they take longer than average to return to their relaxed state. Antisocial personality disorder creates what profilers call emotional mimicry. These people watch others' reactions before showing their own emotions. If someone tells a sad story, they'll observe how others respond first, then mirror that reaction. They're skilled at appearing normal, but their emotional responses are always slightly delayed and perfectly calibrated to what they think is expected. Borderline personality disorder creates what agents call emotional whiplash patterns. These individuals can shift from warm and engaging to cold and distant within the same conversation. The trigger is usually perceived rejection, even something as small as someone checking their phone while they're talking. Watch their facial expressions during group conversations. They monitor everyone's reactions to them constantly, and their mood shifts based on the feedback they're receiving in real time. Paranoid personality disorder shows up in information control behaviors. These people ask more questions than they answer. They want to know who else will be at events, what time things end, who has access to certain information. They also create what profilers call verification loops. They'll ask the same question in different ways to see if your answer changes. Their body language stays guarded, arms crossed or hands in pockets, even in comfortable settings. Schizophrenia in its early stages appears as attention splitting. These individuals will suddenly lose track of conversations, not because they're distracted, but because they're processing internal stimuli. They might pause mid-sentence and look slightly upward or to the side, as if listening to something no one else can hear. Their facial expressions sometimes don't match their words, smiling while discussing something serious or looking concerned while talking about happy events. The disconnect is subtle but consistent. Now you know what FBI agents see when they look at people. These behavioral markers are happening all around you, every single day. Your coworker who always sits in the same spot, the person ahead of you in line who keeps checking the exits, that friend who mirrors everyone's emotions perfectly. But here's what the FBI doesn't want you to know. These same techniques work in reverse. If you can spot these behaviors in others, that means others might be reading your behaviors too. The question is, what signals are you sending right now?